listening to The Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. Welcome, friends, back to the Motherhood Experience podcast. It is such a thrill to have you joining me once again for another conversation with a mom and her motherhood experience. That's what the podcast is all about. If you're new to the podcast, what we do is have a conversation between me and another mom, just sharing our stories, our experiences, what motherhood has been, what we hope it will be, all of the things. And each episode is so unique, so different from one another. And yet there is a nugget, at least, maybe several, in every episode that every mom can find to relate to. And I'm just thrilled to be able to host and facilitate these conversations. It's been such a blessing for me. And today's guest is no different. Before we get into the episode, though, I would just like to remind you to go to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Sign up for my email list because we never know if Val is going to be, I don't want to say terminated. That's kind of what happened to me. There is a Facebook page. You can follow us there if you can find it. I'll try to link it in the show notes. You can follow me on Instagram, but the once a month email is the primary way that you can be sure I will stay in touch with you and let you know about previous episodes, upcoming episodes, all of the things. So be sure to head over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Having said that, I am thrilled to introduce you to my guest today, Rebekah Lundeen. Rebekah is actually Candace Alford's sister. Candace was a previous guest in the podcast. And Rebekah is a young mom of young kids, but we had such a rich conversation. I just really enjoyed getting to chat with her, hear about her experiences and stories and visions regarding motherhood and her 3 kids. And I'm excited for you to tune into this episode with my guest, Rebekah Lundeen. Welcome to the Motherhood Experience podcast. I'm so pleased to have with me today Rebekah Lundeen, Candace Alford's sister. Rebekah, welcome to the Motherhood Experience.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be on here speaking with you.
This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you could join me here. And let's go ahead and start the episode with ages of kids and stage of motherhood you're in.
Yes. So I have 3 kiddos. My oldest is Ellen. She is 4, will be 5 in December. And then I have Isaac. He is 2 and will be 3 in January. And then my little guy, Malachi, is just about 9 months. So yeah, it's kind of busy right now, but it sure is fun.
I love that so much. And when you have, 3 kids, 5 and under, is your oldest almost 5 in December?
My oldest is almost 5, so she's 4 right now. Yep.
Oh my word. Okay. What is a day like waking up in the morning? You know, is there any kind of routine, or is it all chaotic, or what is it like?
It really depends on the day. My oldest, she is in her first year of preschool right now. And so that actually has been kind of nice because I feel like we have a little bit of a routine now. You know, she just goes twice a week and it's just for 3 hours each morning, those 2 days a week. And so that's really nice because it forces me to not be in my pajamas till, lunchtime or something like that. It's like get dressed and get the kids up and going. And I love that. Like, I'm thankful for that because I prefer to be up earlier. Like, I prefer to get up in the morning before my kids, but that just doesn't always happen, especially coming off of having a baby. And sometimes that sleep is just really precious and I just can't seem to get out of bed until one of my kids is up. So typically they're my alarm clock, but yeah, I feel like we usually start the day, we have breakfast, and then I feel like I'm not consistent with this, but I've really been trying to, when we're just home for the day and we don't have to be anywhere, try to sit down in the morning and spend 10 minutes. I tell the kids I'm setting my timer for 10 minutes when Malachi goes down for a nap, and mommy's going to read her Bible. And you can either join me, like you can read your Bible if you like, or you can read quietly another book, or you can play quietly with something. And that, when I can do that, that really sets my day off well. But that's not consistent. If I can do that 3 times a week, I feel like it's been a really good week doing that. But yeah, we always try to get outside in the morning and then come in for lunch. And right now it's kind of crazy because my husband farms, and so we're right in the middle of harvest right now. And so it's a fun season, but it also is, you're kind of doing it all by yourself. And so it's just
Right.
a little chaotic, but it's good.
Right. Yeah, you said if you can do that 3 times a week, that feels like a big win, and I'm over here thinking, I mean, 1 time a week would be pretty ambitious. But were you a morning person before you had kids, and so you just have always liked getting up in the morning, or is it that devotion time that you really like to keep consistent?
I have always been a morning person, but that's because I always do my devotions in the morning. Like before I had kids, I would just wake up early and that was the first thing I would do. But
Yeah.
now it's just not typically the first thing I do. So I'm trying to do better incorporating that. But yeah, like there's some weeks it's like, oh yeah, wow, we did it every day. And then it's like, oh wow, we haven't done that in 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So like it really ebbs and flows. And sometimes a schedule it's like, oh, we've got to be out the door, we're traveling here, we need to help them over here. And so sometimes I don't do it, but I enjoy my time with my kids to be able to do that and kind of invite them into that.
And I love how you incorporate them into that time as well. I think that's a wonderful way to focus on habits and routines at such a young age. And they see like if mommy can do this and I can do this with
Yeah.
her, it
Yes.
gives them a sense of responsibility or, that they really feel like they are participating too. I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your husband is a farmer and there are a few crazy times of year with that. What does mealtime look like in your household?
On a daily basis or like during harvest and the crazy times?
Well, yeah, like I guess both because what
Mhm.
what does it look like when you're kind of single parenting during harvest season versus, after the planting is done or whatever that looks like?
Yeah, so typically, like during the non-busy seasons, I like we typically all sit together during meal times, which is just important to me. I love being able to do that. And now that we have kids, like Mark is home every night for supper in the non-busy seasons, and like in the chaotic seasons, I typically just run lunch to the field for him. And so it's kind of nuts. Sometimes I'm like, kids, like we gotta get out the door, like we've got 3 minutes to leave because otherwise we're not gonna meet dad in this time because then he'll be having to haul corn over here. And so it's usually me like, come on, come on, come on, come on. If I'm being honest, it's kind of like hurry up and go. But yeah, I still try to do mealtime at the table with the kids, but we usually are taking food to the field for Mark for lunch and supper. So
Have you ever just grabbed the kids and run out like they don't have shoes, maybe someone is missing their pants or something, but it's
oh
like we don't
yeah.
have time to look for this. We just need to go.
Yeah, I'm always like, shoes,
Well,
we
I
don't
mean,
need, we're
I
not
want
going
this
to.
pod yeah, I want this podcast to be encouraging and everything, but I'm here to tell you that that doesn't necessarily stop happening when they get older.
That's good to know.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the shoes thing. Normally they leave the house with pants, at this stage of my parenting, but the shoes thing is a struggle. So, when you and your husband met, is he from a large family? I know that you have, is it 6 sisters?
Yeah, I'm
5
the youngest
sisters?
of six girls.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the oldest of three, so a little bit
Okay.
smaller family.
Okay. So, did the two of you talk about your ideas, hopes, and dreams for a family?
Yes, we did. He, I think, was a little intimidated because, my parents have 19 grandbabies now. And so when we first started dating, I'm trying to remember how many there were. I think there was only like five or so. But, I had five older sisters, and it was just all, he had never really been around kids much. And, because he was the oldest in his family. And as we were engaged in talking about families and whatnot, we talked about how many kids would we ideally like. And I always said five. Like, I want 5 kids. I loved coming from a big family. And that freaked him out. So he initially said, let's just do, like, let's have 2 kids, hoping maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle. And so that would maybe mean more like 3, at most 4 or something. So that was always what we kind of talk about. And then, you actually like get pregnant and have kids. And it's like, maybe I don't want 5 kids. Maybe that's a lot. But I had, 5 older sisters and I just loved it. Like I love being part of a large family. But yeah, it's kind of funny. We've kind of flip flopped. I don't just love being pregnant. It's, not always just super fun. My mom always said like, oh, I had never felt better than when I was pregnant. And like, I just love being pregnant. It was just the absolute best. And so I think we had these preconceived notions. And my sisters were always like, Becca, mom lies. Like, that's not true. Like, pregnancy is not fun. And so thankfully I had a warning going into it. Like, okay, maybe it's not, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just the gift that it is, but it's not always easy, and it's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's fun by any means, but yeah. So we had talked about that a little bit.
I did love being pregnant, but I was also very miserable
Oh.
in my pregnancy, whether with
Mhm.
morning sickness or sciatica. And so, like, I can see, even I was straddling that fence. Like, I can see how people would be like, oh, being pregnant is just the best. And also, why would anybody want to do this so many
Yes.
times? Yeah. Is there, like, are you just kind of playing it by ear? As far, I know that your youngest is only 9 months old, so
Mhm.
I hope you're not getting right after it to add
Yes,
to the
yes.
family. But
We
are you just kind of, waiting and seeing? Do you feel like three is a good number?
Yeah, I do like 3. I wouldn't say I'm ready to be done yet though. Like I think we both feel that way. I think we're both just really praying that like the Lord will give direction, and like if he blesses us with another baby, that's great. But I have difficult pregnancies, so I'm thinking maybe I could do it one more time, but I don't know if I could do it much any more than that. So I think right now we're kind of like, okay, 3 or 4 at most is kind of where we're at in terms of number of kids. So
Yeah. Is your husband hoping that any of the kids will take on farming?
I think he would love that. I think that would, he's like, oh, I want them to do whatever like they would like to do, whatever the Lord, like wherever he directs them. But he loves farming so much. And our middle son, our middle child, Isaac, he farms all day. Like he's 2, and all he wants to do is be in the tractor, be in the combine, be in the semi. And if he's inside, all he's doing is farming. Like I mean, literally nonstop all day. He's like, wakes up, he's like, I'm gonna go farm now. I was like, okay. And then he likes it when I can farm with him a little bit. But it's like nonstop. He's always driving a tractor or filling the bins or doing something. Like he loves it. Just like he's such a farm boy up and down. So I pray that he continues to enjoy it. I'm thankful he has Mark to look up to, who also just loves what he does and is thankful to be able to do what he does. And we also farm with Mark's dad and his brother. And so he gets to see Grandpa and Uncle Nate and everybody farming, and he loves that. And even Mark's 91-year-old grandpa still runs the combine. He's out running the combine right now. So it's amazing.
Wow. That's such a cool legacy too, and that your 2-year-old is already just so in love with it. That's one of my favorite things about farm kids is
Yeah,
they if they love farming, they can get so into it, and it's just the
yeah,
most precious thing.
yeah. I had no idea. Like my mother-in-law would always be like, "Oh yeah, the boys all they ever wanted to do was farm," and I was like, "Yeah, like that sounds cute." But like I had no idea she was like legit serious. Like this actually happens, and until I had Isaac, and like he's the same way. He just loves it, and so it is really neat.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are misconceptions that people have about being a mom, a stay-at-home mom in particular, and a farmer's wife? Do you feel like other people just think, well, gosh, I wish I had that luxury to not do anything all day long, when in reality you're running your tail off?
Yeah, I think sometimes people do. And I think sometimes people who maybe stay home can have preconceived notions about people who work, like I think it can go both ways. But I, I'm just grateful. All I've ever wanted to be is a mom. Like that's just been my dream since I was little, to be married and to have kids and be home with them. That's what our mom did. And it was just such a blessing. to me to grow up and like always have my mom around. And so I love it. But yeah, it's nuts. Like it's not like, oh wow, her house is so clean because she's home all day. It's like, no, I've picked up the living room 15 times today. And like you should see the amount of food I sweep up off my floor after every meal. Like it's just nonstop. And so even though I'm home, it doesn't mean that like I have time to do all these things, especially when I'm trying to be intentional with my kids too. And then in this harvest season, it's just a little more wild because it's like, okay, I'm trying to get 3 kids fed, bathed, and in bed on time and deliver meals to the field, and it's like, yeah, it's somewhere's got to give. Like I can't always get it all done and I can't always do it well. So I'm thankful that the Lord just gives grace in those moments. And yeah, I was thinking like, as you were talking and saying like, oh, that's cool that your kids get to like you invite them into that reading with you. And I just want to say too, like it's important for my kids to see me say like, I'm sorry and this is why mommy like needs to spend time with Jesus, because I'm totally like not responding the way I should be responding to you. And like, yes, you were wrong in this area, but mommy was wrong to respond that way. And it's important that I'm spending time with Jesus, And so like it's really humbling being a mom because I mess up a lot.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so I'm thankful that God gives grace in those moments, and in moments of it's like it's okay if I have a sink full of dishes, like those can wait, or like they'll get done sometime.
And there will always be more, right?
They never stop.
Yeah, yeah. Dishes for sure. And sometimes I feel bad for my kids. Dishes is one of their chores. And I'm like, man, they like there will never be a day when dishes are their chores that they're like, oh, sweet, I don't have to do dishes today. Like, and there's only 4 of us. And now, granted, when like cooking from scratch and everything, you do use a lot more dishes, it seems like. And also, I don't know if your husband is this way, but I like to tease my husband because I feel like he wants to use the largest serving utensil he can find and like as many dishes as he can touch just to do like one simple thing.
It's like stop. You're cleaning that
Oh,
up.
yeah, it's so fun. Oh man. So I mean, your kids are so young. I just love that they are doing all of these things already. But do you notice with you being the youngest of 6 and watching your sisters have kids before you and everything, are there things that you have seen or picked up on or even from your own parents where you're like, for sure I want to make sure my kids experience this?
Yeah, definitely. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to be the youngest and to like get to really just watch and witness and like, I feel like it was a little easier for me because, you kind of see things like this works, this doesn't work, this kind of torques mom and dad off, mom and dad like this, and like there's just a lot of avenues that I saw growing up with 5 older sisters. Like, okay, this is what it looks like to like walk with the Lord. And this is like when we choose to make bad decisions, this is what it looks like. This is the pain it causes mom and dad. And like, I just felt like I was kind of a fly on the wall and I got to see all that. But yeah, it's definitely helpful. Like I felt like coming, you know, I felt like, oh yeah, like I've seen all this. Like I'm like so excited and ready to be a mom, but like it's different too. I had my own kids and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, no idea at all. Like, I don't know what's happening and I don't know how to parent that. And, you do, it's amazing how I just like hear my parents' voices in my head, like things that they would say to us or like stay consistent. You have to be consistent in your discipline and you have to stay consistent and just like things like that. So there's definitely things that I really appreciate that they had shared. And I think
Yeah.
I have gleaned from my sisters and my parents quite a bit.
Yeah. What about family holidays and such? How, with having younger kids, how have you worked out what family you see on what holidays and how that all works?
But yeah, in terms of holidays, that was kind of easy for me because Mark was the oldest in his family and I'm the youngest. So I felt like my family had already established, like, this is kind of what we do. And Mark's family is like really gracious and they're just like, whatever works for you guys. And so we swap. So like we split Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. So like one year we spend Thanksgiving with Mark's family, and then that same year we spend Christmas with mine. And then the next year we flip flop. So then his family gets Thanksgiving, or my family gets Christmas. I don't know if I said that backwards, but anyway, we flip flop. And so it's every other year we get to spend like Thanksgiving or Christmas with each of our families. So that's worked well. And then typically we're always with my family on the 4th of July because that's the only time of year my sister from Connecticut is able to come back. And so then
Oh,
all
wow.
6 of us girls get to be together. And so we always just kind of plan to do the 4th of July with my family. And then Easter is kind of hit and miss depending on if the guys are busy in the field getting ready, like doing spring field work or getting ready for planting. Kind of depends where it falls. And so sometimes we go up to my parents and sometimes we stay here. It just kind of depends. And sometimes we do both. So,
What about hosting? Have you ever wanted to host and just have people come to you and your kids rather than go to them?
oh, I love hosting. I just like love having people in my home so much. But I think it's just easier, to go. Like my sister hosts on the 4th of July, and they have an ideal setup for hosting and everything. And I think it's easier for my parents to have everybody at Christmas and everything. But I would love to host. I think it would be super fun. I don't know if like Mark is like, oh, that's like super fun, but like to me it is.
How did you and Mark meet?
We met in college. We both were part of Crew, which was formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ. And so I knew him my freshman year of college, but I was actually like dating somebody at the time. But then my sophomore year, we were on like a leadership group together. And so I really got to know him. He was like super shy, like so shy, like wouldn't talk to anybody, especially girls. So I got to know him quite a bit on the leadership team. And so that's kind of when we got to know each other more and everything. And so then we started dating my sophomore year of college. So,
What are some favorite like nighttime routine things? I imagine with you having littles that bedtime probably is a little earlier in the evening, but still a little chaotic. So, what are kind of your favorite things about your bedtime routine with the kids?
yeah, it's fun. So, with each of my kids, my boys are really easy to put down. My daughter, she was my first child, and I just like had all the time in the world to do anything and everything she wanted. So our bedtime routine is still a little bit longer, but she's getting better. But yeah, I take time to pray and sing with them, each of them every night, and that's really fun. And I feel like if we're doing good on time, then we'll just choose a couple books to read together as well before they go to bed. But each of them, like I usually put each of them down separately, and then they each have like a special song that I sing with them. And then Ellen, so we pray and sing, and then she also likes to count. So I usually cut her off at 20 because I'm like, we don't need to count to 50 right now because that just takes forever. And so that's
Oh,
good.
does she have like typical oldest child traits? Have you noticed?
Yes, she really does. Except she is tentative. Like, she's not necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna like lead and I'm gonna, you know, but like with Isaac, like with her brothers, she's definitely a little like bossy. Like, oh, Isaac, let's do this. And I told her, I said, Isaac's gonna get to a point where he's not gonna want to follow you around and like you're gonna have to be okay with that or whatever. So, yeah, but she definitely likes to be in charge when her brothers are around. But like if she's with cousins, she likes them to be in charge and likes to like just
Mm,
play and follow with her older cousins. So
yeah.
a little bit of both, I guess.
Does your husband's siblings, do they have kids of their own as well?
Yeah, so his younger sister Laura, she's a really good friend of mine too, but she has 3 kids also, and her daughter is 10 weeks older than Ellen, and then she has a son who's 8 weeks older than Isaac, and then she has another son who's 8 weeks younger than Malachi. So they
Wow.
are just right in line with our kids, and so it's really fun. I feel like my kids are so blessed to have cousins really on both sides that are close to their ages, so that's really
Yeah,
fun.
that that is fun for the kids, especially, and so fantastic. I know that my sister and I always wanted our kids to
Oh,
grow up together, and it took until 4 years ago before we could get close enough to make that happen. So I
mm.
just love that. Even with you being the youngest of six, did you have a lot of cousins and stuff growing up?
Yes, I did have a lot. But we lived in Nebraska, and both of my parents grew up in Arizona. And so most of my cousins lived in Arizona. And so I really didn't get to see very many of them. I did have a couple cousins who lived in Nebraska, and we got to see them a decent amount, but most of my cousins lived down in Arizona. So usually, like once every year or two, I'd get to see them, but not very often.
Okay. So did your family shape the most of kind of your views and visions for motherhood, or were there just maybe encounters you had with the Lord or experiences you had in the world where you were like, this is kind of what I see motherhood as being for me?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I would definitely say my parents shaped so much of like who I am as a mother and how I parent. And I think that I had some experiences in college of just, I would say like one of the gifts that the Lord's given me is like I just have a heart for kids in general. Like I would just always love kids, and I went on a missions trip to Africa, and I got to work with kids there, and I went to Chicago a number of times and got to work with like kids of there was like 15 different nationalities. So I think I've just always desired to instill in my children hearts of gratitude, and that's just like it's hard to do. Like we're all born sinners, but it's like I just see the I'm just so grateful for the life that I was given growing up and the life that my kids have. And I just like never want to take any of that for granted because I got to witness these precious kids who really had just a really hard upbringing, some of them. And so I think one like those experiences really made me want my kids to see and understand that. But I know it's like it just doesn't happen like that and doesn't happen overnight. But so I think that is one experience that I maybe gleaned from something that I was able to do throughout high school and college. But yeah, I wish kids just grasped onto gratitude, but it's not always. That usually just comes later in life.
Yeah. If we're fortunate enough. Some of
Yeah,
us still have some work to do on the
yeah.
gratitude piece. But I love what you shared, and that leads me to another question then, because being married to a farmer, I'm just going to assume that you live at least somewhat rurally. What is your community like as far as other mom friends, other
Mhm.
kids that your kids can play with? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's just honestly been a huge answer to prayer. When Mark and I first got married in our church, we live in a town of about 3,000 people, which is really pretty big, considering I grew up in a town of about 450 people. So it definitely feels like a step up. We have fast food restaurants, so that's cool. But and stoplights. But yeah, like when we first got married, there was a couple other people about our age that were in the church, but maybe only like two couples. And I really prayed that the Lord would bring more younger couples to our church. And he truly just has like answered that prayer in abundance. And we have several young couples, and yeah, just like so many younger moms with kids, and there's like so many kids at church, and it's just like so fun to see. And so that's been just an absolute blessing. I've been able to get together with a handful of moms. Usually there's like 6 or 7 of us that we try to meet, and these are moms that have the ability to like stay home with their kids or have younger kids and aren't super busy. Like some of them homeschool and some of them send their kids to public school, but we try to meet once a week, and we have like a prayer group where we just choose certain things to pray for. We pray over one another, and we just like maybe we'll pray, just say like this week we're going to focus on just praying for our husbands, and this week we're going to just pray for our country, and just different things like that. But that's been a huge encouragement to me to know like I have women my age and my like season of life like walking through this with me, And then I also have a few gals from church too who just they're just like so inspiring to me, and they're definitely in like they've walked through this season. They have older kids, and so, like and I have friends that like aren't married and don't have kids, and some friends that are married but they don't have kids, and able to get together with them, kind of like an accountability group, and just that's just like so life giving to just be surrounded by women who love the Lord and just like they pour into you, and they're just such an encouragement, and yeah, it just like really fills my bucket. And so I'm just really grateful for the community that we have here, because it wasn't always this way. And like I just remember praying like just like one friend, Lord, just please bring like one friend to me, because it's different going from I just felt like I made such wonderful friends in college, and then you move to a new community and you don't really know anyone, and you're starting all over. And so yeah, the Lord's been really gracious in that way.
And I think you've already answered this question in sharing what you shared, but I just kind of want to go down this path a little bit as far as how different do you think your life would be or look
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have that community, and what kind of state of mind would you be in?
Yeah.
In other words, if there's another mom out there who maybe is praying that prayer that you prayed and it hasn't been answered yet,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're struggling or what, like, would you have been prompted to, I don't know, drive a certain distance out of town? Would you have just tried hosting things at your house? Like, how different would your life be today, do you think,
Yeah.
if other moms hadn't been brought into your circle?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. I just think it makes a huge difference. Like, I mean, you know, in Romans, when it talks about the renewing of our mind and just like changing the way we think, I really think when you've got people in your circle that are coming alongside of you, it just helps you have more of an eternal perspective, and a less of like me focused, but more like others focused. So I really think just by knowing like, okay, these people are praying for me, these people love me, they don't care that I'm a mess most of the time, they don't care if my house is dirty. They don't like I don't have to make everything look okay. Like they accept me where I'm at and for who I am. And so just like having that freedom, really, I think that makes me a better wife. I think it makes me a better mom, just because they're such an encouragement in that way. And yeah, and if you are a mom who's like, I wish I had something like that, I would say keep praying. And if you like love to host, like yeah, try like hosting something. And that was the thing, it was small steps. Like I remember, like I am definitely not extroverted, but I love people like in smaller groups. So like I feel like I come alive in small groups and like talking one on one. But if you were to put me in a large group, I'd just be like, oh, I might puke, or like don't make me speak in front of anybody, or like I'm just like not comfortable with that. Me and Candace were opposites. Like we just not out of the same mold. But so I'm definitely more reserved, but I still like love hosting. And so just depending, like if you love to do that, just do your best, like maybe like try to initiate that. But my husband was like, Becca, like when when you're getting to know people, like I just like I love going deep with people. Like I love like knowing them, and like not just surfacey talk. Like I'm like, how are you? Like really, like how are you? Like I want to know. And he's like, that might totally freak some people out if like they don't know you very well, and that's like the first thing you ask. He's like, so it might take time to like get to know them, and that's been so cool, because I've seen like women who like for several years, it was more just like that friendship was building. It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen just like that. It's just it took prayer, and it took just some patience on my part. 'Cause, like I want to know everything about you. Like I just want to know how I can be your friend well. Like I want to love you well. I want to pray for you, and and it's like you're kind of a lot right now, Becca. Like don't don't do that, So anyway, not that I had bad intentions. It was just kind of weird, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I I'm kind of a lot for people too, but it's like a lot of awkward all at once, you know? And the Lord has used it. I mean, he works it out sometimes, but most of the time, and I love speaking in front of crowds, in front of audiences, because I don't have to do the small talk in
Mm,
those scenarios,
yeah.
because I'm always
Yeah.
just try I stress out so much trying to think of how can I connect with this one person I don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
then something comes out like, I like how you tie your shoelaces. I'm like, what? They're like inching away, like, okay, this is great.
That's so funny.
So, but I love that there are, it takes all types, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that there are these communities established and set up where we do all have different gifts and
Mm,
roles and responsibilities and ways to connect with people. I just think that's so beautiful, and I think that it's so important, and that's one thing on this podcast I hear over and over and over again is the importance of finding your people,
yeah.
finding that community that you can, reach out to in times of need, whether that need is a physical material need or
Mhm.
just encouragement and emotional support, whatever the case may be. So thank you for elaborating on that.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm glad that you enjoy speaking because then I don't have to, And no, it
Well,
really takes all kinds, and I'm thankful that
it
the Lord
does.
designed it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister and I, it's just my sister and I. She's 3 years younger than me. She had kids before I did. So I learned a lot from her as far as parenting goes also, but we are total opposites. You couldn't pay, there's not enough money to get her to speak in front of people. I'll do it for free. What do you want to talk about? You got a microphone? I'll take it. Like, she will not, absolutely not. But she's much better at connecting with people one on one. And, you know, I'm not. So, anyway, what kinds of things do you hope? Well, I guess I kind of want to go straight to this. When your kids reach school age, do
Mhm.
you already know, or do you kind of still go back and forth? What do you want to do for them for school?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question because we are kind of up in the air right now. We aren't for sure. We have a great school here in Minden. We really love the idea of homeschooling, especially in these younger, like formative years. That's just kind of something that we've both kind of, I don't know, felt nudges in that way, and we're just really praying about that. But like, we love the idea of the flexibility that comes with homeschooling, and that, like, oh, our kids could still, they could still go harvest with dad. They could, you know help me at the in the house, and we could like go on a trip, and we could like do school by taking a vacation, and just incorporate those things. And just knowing that like the Lord has truly like entrusted me to raise these kids, and so I just really want to make sure whatever we decide, we're just like honoring him well in what he's asking of us. So I know that's not the same for everybody, but yeah, so we're not 100% sure, but I don't know. I'd say maybe we're kind of leaning towards homeschooling, but we're not sure either. So hopefully we figure that
Yeah.
out soon.
Yeah.
We need to know
Well,
before.
I I love the answer and the fact that you're still aware that you've got time to consider these options and weigh the different pros and cons of it. I think that's important instead of like, well, I don't know. She's 5, so where do I sign? I think that's great. And what about birthdays? Because I'm just gonna confess something to you. When I did not have any children, and there was a point in my life where I didn't think I would ever
Mhm.
have any. One of the reasons that I told myself and other people is Like, there's no way I could do little kid birthday parties. The noise level is already painful. Like, I can't imagine the kid birth. And so, I mean, lo and behold, praise God, he gave me children, but our birthday parties are pretty low key.
Yes.
You know, like I don't have 10 5-year olds. That was never a thing. Actually, that's not true, but like we did it in public places, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like we pay for someone else to clean up the mess and,
Yes.
you know, it's already loud in that place anyway. But how are you with birthday parties? Do you love them? Is it something that you look forward to? Are you kind of low key? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'm definitely low key, I would say. I love birthdays. Like, I just think everybody deserves to be celebrated on your birthday. Like, it's just such a special day, you know? And so I like making it special, but I just like don't have a creative bone in my body. So, like, my kids will never have like a Pinterest birthday party because their mom is like not creative at all, you know? So I feel like we're just getting into that. Like, this is probably the first year we'll have like a birthday party for Ellen because we've just always kind of combined because Ellen's December, the boys are January birthday. So we usually just kind of like do like a combined party because it's easier for family to come to that and whatnot. But yeah, so I'm not much really intimidates me because I've been around my whole family like a lot, and you know there's always like 19 kids running around, so that's just wild. And so I feel like I'm kind of used to chaos and noise, lots and lots of noise. But so the fact that there'd be a lot here doesn't really overwhelm me, but more like trying to be creative and just like this isn't working type of thing, like the like thinking about like do I have to have a theme or can I just like slap some cake on some plates and call it good? You know, like does there have to be
Right.
decorations or, you know, because I'm not really that type of person. But I have a couple of sisters who are just like very creative and like everything looks so good. I'm like, maybe I'll just like hire you. Like I will pay you and you
Yeah.
can come like, you know, decorate for me or something. Because
Yeah.
it's not my cup of tea, but
Once again, my sister, I remember when she said she was sad, you know, that she didn't get to plan those kind of parties anymore. And I was like, well, you can plan your nephew's party.
yeah.
Like, I will not get in the way of if you love this kind of thing, go for it.
And how many kids does your sister have?
She's got 2 boys.
Two boys.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have
Yeah.
two girls?
I have a daughter and a son.
Oh, okay, boy and girl. Okay.
Yeah. And my oldest is 14
Okay.
and my youngest is 10. So,
Okay.
yeah, different and our kids, my sisters and my kids kind of stair step. So it's like
Okay.
16, 14, 12 and 10 right now. Is that right? No, 13, 14, 13, 10. I don't know. It's something like that. They stair
They're
step
all within
basically.
that age range.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a terrible aunt now. I can hear my mom and my sister yelling my nephew's age at me right now. Uh, so yeah, that's great. And I so relate. Like I really like looking at Pinterest, but actually
Yeah.
doing things to make something like that happen is not going to
Yes.
be me.
That's how I
Yeah.
am too. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've kind of you've done so great answering the questions that I have had. I feel like I've taken so many rabbit trails, so and I can't remember where I wanted to get to, but I've just so appreciated our time together and your perspective too, because you know I feel like you've had a really realistic approach in mothering, and sometimes people with young kids are like, "Well, this is what I want it to be, and this is what I say will happen," and you're like, "Yeah, God bless you," or "Bless your heart," isn't that what they say in the South? But yeah, I just feel like you have a wisdom beyond your years in this whole mothering thing, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for you and your kids.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for letting me be a part of this. It's just been a joy to talk with you and spend time together.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. And speaking of talking and spending time, if you could sit face to face with a mom who kind of finds herself like, I don't know how to do this, and I feel like maybe I don't know who my people are, how would you encourage her today?
Yeah. I would say that God sees you. God knows the desires of your heart. Just keep asking. Sometimes we can feel like, is he ever going to answer this prayer? Like, and maybe he is. Maybe he's just saying, just wait. Like, just wait for what I want to do. Because like, God's design is community. Like, God wants to, like, he loves community. That's the way he has designed for us to function together. And so he's not just purposely going to withhold like really good things, and it might just look different. And so maybe just trying to just keep seeking him, like be in the word, and just be in conversation with him, and ask him for perspective of like, Lord, even if it's not what I'm like thinking or envisioning, help me be open to what maybe you do have for me, and like, what is this going to look like? And and if, like, I understand if you're not naturally an extroverted person, like maybe just praying for boldness in those areas too, because it's not easy to just be like, oh yeah, like I totally like want to start this, or I want to do that, because that's intimidating. And it's like you want to make friends, and you don't want and not that we like should care what other people think, but it's like you don't want people to be like, that lady is kind of just like a little crazy, and so you you like want to just handle it in such a way where just yeah. But sorry, now I'm like kind of going on a rabbit trail.
And I'm distracting you because I'm thinking, I know there are people that are like, that's a little out there, but
That's okay.
God's lover,
that's okay. And that's exactly what people need too. Like, some people are like, no, like I need somebody like that in my life. There was a gal like that when I was in college. Like, the first time she met me, she sat down with me and she's like, I want to know your whole life story. Like, we're doing that right now. And I'm like, what? And she was just like such an encouragement to me all throughout college. And she really like, she's like, she's like, let's just like be real with each other and like go deep. And so, yeah. And I know not everybody responds well to that, but sometimes it's needed too. So
yeah. Or I mean, sometimes you can just tell someone you like how they tie their shoelaces.
That's always a great option.
Whatever. Like, I'm here to help people.
So funny.
Well, this has been so much fun. And once again, just thank you for even being willing. I know that you and I don't know each other. Your sister was like, you should reach out and see if she wants to do it. And she gave me phone numbers instead of email addresses. And I was like, oh, now I have to be like a real person and interact like this. So, but you've been so gracious, and I just really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your motherhood experience with the rest of us.
Yeah, well, it's been a joy. Thank you so much, Val. You're an excellent hostess. And so thank you for allowing me to chat with you. Like, it's just been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Be sure to follow The Motherhood Experience on Instagram, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.